Welcome to our weekly podcast, Real Talk with Chris and Ross. We are designed for entrepreneurs and forward thinkers. We also cater very heavily around the real estate industry as a whole, bringing you hot topics and up-to-date content with a lot of amazing special guest speakers along the way. So sit back, buckle your seatbelt, and get ready for the best hour of your day. Welcome. Real Talk with Chris and Ross. Yes, we are hitting episode 49. We're almost to the 50 mark. This is crazy when we started this thing. My hostess with the mostest, Ross, unfortunately, is off today on some vacation details, but the show will go on. We're always catering into the real estate industry as a whole, but entrepreneurs and business like-minded people. Today, we have a special guest, actually my boy right here from Hawaii, but he is a trifecta to all of that. I actually just recently met Charles here. It's probably been, was it a few months now, Charles? Has it been 2 or 3 months now that we met with you and Kyle?
Yeah. Maybe a little longer than that. Several months. Yeah, a little longer. Yeah.
It just goes to show you, man, sometimes time means nothing, because I've been able to manage to build this amazing relationship with this guy who honestly is a magnet, amazing attractor, because he just has the energy. The first day I met him was that. And I'm always trying to level myself up with people that I surround myself with, and Charles is a true testament to that. So I've been super blessed to have him in my life. In fact, I could say in 2024, if I can lock a few people down or things that as pieces of wow, I'm glad I met that person or did that thing in 2024, Charles and Kyle are the two people that I'm super blessed and grateful to have brought into my life. So today's show, I have Charles Hew, who is right here again, born and raised in Hawaii. Charles, kick it off, man. I'd love for you kind of showcase a little bit about who you are. We'll start your story off. Again, the most amazing story of this individual here who pretty much emulates the fact that there are zero excuses to life. Like, you can become whatever you want to become if you just put your mind to it and refuse to let go. So yeah, Charles, real quick, kind of share with us how you got where you're at, where you're from, that kind of thing, and give everybody a little taste of that.
Well, great. Thank you for that introduction and being one of the top people that you've met this year. I'm very blessed and fortunate to be in this position and to be able to have gotten to know you, these last several months. Let's see. I'm not sure what listeners you have over here, but I'm originally from Hawaii, and in Hawaii, believe it or not, we do have these areas where considered, can be considered the rough areas or the ghettos, I guess, if you use the right term. So I'm from that area. It's in Hawaii, on Oahu specifically. It's called Waianae. So I grew up there, rough neighborhood, born to parents with no education. Mom never stepped in a foot in a classroom. My dad, he went to school, but he dropped out. But back then in the early 1900s, you could get a job without finishing high school. But anyway, so I lived in this low-income housing area out in Waianae, and it felt pretty normal, to be honest. I didn't know anything else different. But at a young age, I think I knew I wanted something. I felt like I wanted something more. And I didn't quite have the models for it because my parents were just, blue-collar workers, minimum wage workers. My dad did pretty well. He got to Pearl Harbor. And so I just grew up around that environment. So there was really any role models for me, per se. And oddly enough, in my area, the people who actually make it that you see in your face are, drug dealers and chicken fighters.
Yeah.
And so,
make people away about chicken fighter. That's real.
Yeah. And chicken fighting just seemed way too violent for me. So that left me just one choice in profession. And so I ended up getting involved in the whole, drug scene, not using, that always scared the shit out of me. But I saw that as my opportunity to make money. I didn't see any other models, to say. Actually, interesting. When I look back at that one moment, I remember that one particular moment. I'm in 7-Eleven, I'm about 12 years old. This guy walks in who's very well known. Back then there's no social media, there's no You just word of mouth, and you knew who this guy was. I didn't know who he was. I never saw him, never met him, never seen his face. But you always hear of this name. His name was called Charlie Stevens, and he was considered one of the last known criminal figureheads out in Waianae. And when he walked in 7-Eleven, he had this suit and black Cadillac with this little girl, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I've never seen Charlie Stevens. I've always heard about him, but this gotta be him. And he just walked in with this sense of like confidence and aura. And I just remember in that moment, something happened in my mind, and I said, man, I want to be like that. Not thinking anything. I just think it was alluring at the time. So, and I think that sort of set the course for me to go in that direction. Long story short, got involved in that lifestyle, ended up getting busted, got 8.5 years in federal prison. And that's sort of where my life started to turn around.
That's crazy. I kind of want to go back real quick because I think like everybody as a human from the very beginning, I always talk about this, especially with my You Matter series that I'm breaking out this year in 2025, that everything starts with you, ends with you. And we get to this place of like dream-like state as a child, right? We all do. We all have these dreams. And then obviously people are put in different environments. You speak of an environment where you were raised in that wasn't aligned, let's just say, with going to college, being like set up in the future.
No.
It was more designed to just trying to be resourceful to figure out how to survive. And I think so many people in the world grow up in more environments than probably environments where we would call it a silver spoon, right? Where you have all these opportunities that are presented for you. And even if we're honest, those kids screw that shit up too. I mean, I know a lot of people who grew up in silver spoons are massive drug addicts that are like just blah. So here we go, we're setting the stage here. You were in an environment where, if we're honest, it was more designed to be around that. And yes, fortunately, unfortunately, we'll call it, right? Fortunately, unfortunately, you did go that direction, but that was the beginning of the story. The beginning of the story that led you to where you're at. And I truly believe that it's not what you've come from, it's where you're at and what you've done with what you've done in your life. It's ultimately where you end up. So yeah, your story there. I just want to set the stage, everybody know that. And honestly, fast forward real quick, let everybody know you're not like just this slum right now who's just hanging out in Waianae anymore either. You're a self-made millionaire at this point in your life that have created an amazing business legally through real estate and entrepreneurship, like owning your body from day one, like you see in Mr. Stevens. His name's Stevens, right? Charlie Stevens was his name in 7-Eleven? Yeah.
Charlie Stevens. Yeah.
Charlie Stevens was the shiny little object that you saw that you wanted to achieve, but yet it was like a business in your mind that you wanted to build. All right. So fast forward, you went to prison, did your thing. And most people that come out of that, you end up going right back, or they find a lifestyle that's very assimilated with staying in that kind of rut. What did you do with your life at that point? How did it turn around? What did you start doing to kind of get things moving forward for you?
I think what happens, and I think this happens for many men, is that when you start working really hard in a direction and things don't work, or maybe at some point life punches you in the face, and you get to the point where you feel like giving up and you start questioning all of your beliefs. It's like, man, because when you're young and you're cocky and you're confident and you're ambitious, you seem to, I think you can have all this confidence until you hit a brick wall. And then at some point, for me, fortunately, I had to analyze everything that I stood for, like everything that made me me. I had to question, right? Man, am I like everything that I thought I was just had to got ripped apart? Because actually, I wasn't any of those things. Now I don't have a home. I'm not a father. I'm not a husband. I'm not any of those things. All that stuff got totally ripped away once I went to federal prison. Not a business owner, nothing, not a son. All that's gone. And I think that hitting that lowest point in my life, even contemplating suicide at that point, it was that point where it was, okay, what am I supposed to do with my life? Where am I going? How did I get it all wrong? I think that was the biggest question. How did I get it wrong? Because my parents were good parents. Dad went to church, went to seminary school. I was a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout. So it wasn't like my parents brought me up in this horrific environment. But I was in a pretty bad environment, but they were, good parents. And I think what happened for me was there was this light bulb that went off. Well, at that time, it felt like dying. So that's I was experiencing so much suffering. I said, man, and I wasn't thinking about the cars and the fame and the power and the respect, right? That a lot of men try to strive for, especially at that age. Um, and I realized a distinction happened to me, and I said, man, if life isn't about what I get, because I got a lot at that point, by the time I got busted, I was 29. I said, I got a lot, and none of it mattered. And
Yeah.
so something happened in my brain that said, man, if life isn't about what I get, then it has to be about what I give. It has to be. I don't ever want to get into a position where the last 10 seconds of my life happens, flash before my eyes, before it's lights out. And all I thought about was what I got, which in that moment, it felt like empty. And so I just vowed that from here on out, I'm going to make it about how much I can give and what difference I'm going to make. That I'm still wanting to create a life of wealth and abundance and all this stuff, but I'm going to do it by worrying about how much can I give. And that I just had this faith like that somehow will work itself out. Before I never read books. I didn't read a single book. I cheated my way through my final exam and I graduated at the bottom of my class in
Yeah.
the worst ranked school in all of Hawaii. Consistently ranks at the bottom of the list. When I say bottom, I mean the very bottom. And from that, I graduated at the bottom of my class. So I never read a book, but somehow intuitively, it just felt like that was it. That was what I was supposed to do. And
That's
then I read my first book. And my very first book I read was Tony Robbins,
yeah.
Unleash the Giant Within, Awaken the Giant Within. I think it was called. And that just rocked my world. That just made me realize how much I did not know about life and creating a life and just figuring out, just knowing how to make life work for me.
Well, I like the fact that you use this foundation of helping others, right? Contribution, selflessness. And the reality is like the old Jim Rohn say, right? Help to get if you help others get what they want, ultimately you end up getting what you want, right? In life. And you took that to heart. And you had to start doing a process of things. Again, it wasn't like you just flip the light switch on and like 3 days later you have this epiphany and like, I'm going to start being this amazing guy and dig into my character and find out who I am. And I know hanging out with you a lot.
No, no, yeah, no, it was brought on without my choosing.
Yeah. Oh,
All the pain and suffering came about without my choosing, and it was initially a way to just survive. I was just in so much pain. I didn't want to continue being in the space that I was suffering, and it was just I need to do something different. And I
yeah.
was just really, really motivated to do something different to just stop this from happening. Like, how can I figure out how to stop the pain, stop the suffering, stop screwing up and fucking up different areas of my life.
I like it. So then what was okay, so now we got this point where you've come out of where you come out of. You've had this massive transformation in your mind of knowing what you want different. You want something different
Yeah.
in life. Now we're going to take the steps. And I think there's a lot of people listening right now on this podcast that very well may be in your shoes right now today. I say everybody's drowning right now, literally drowning emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, drowning. And some people just cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel, or the forest, the trees. And the reality is you did. What were some of the things, if you could share, like that helped you like do that? Besides the fact that maybe it's just less gut you have feeling inside of you that you just want better. I mean, what instinctually was it? What did it? Because not everybody could do this.
I think the turning point the turning point that happened, something happened inside for me was it. Crazy thing happened. So I'm in a point. I remember that day. I really contemplating suicide. I haven't slept for about 3 days. When you don't sleep that long, your immune system breaks down. You start hallucinating. You start getting sick. Start getting cold. So I started getting really sick. Literally zero sleep. I've never in my life laid down and not even had a moment to not fall asleep. It never happened to me before. This happened for several days. And so my good friend, loving, caring friend, saw what's happening for me, and he came in my cell, and he said, "Hey, just sat down and talked to me." He says, "Hey, I see you suffering." He said, "I see you suffering." He's like, "Don't fight it. Just don't fight. Don't try to shove it down." And so he had me go, think about the moment your son was born, and think about all these thoughts that while you're in prison, you're suffering so much that you battle between the images of the things that are creating all this suffering and how to change it, what to do. And you feel just feeling trapped. I guess what it was, this trap feeling of feeling trapped. And he had me think about all these the most painful things that I didn't want to think about. He had me think about it. And for the first time, I just bawled crying, like like, I mean, just bawling, just crawling up. And he said, you know what? I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not gonna, because typically when you see someone cry, you try to stop them. You try to go, hey, it's okay. You try to stop it. He said, you're not gonna stop this. You need this. And he just kept bringing up memory. Think about that. Think about this, and kept going on and on and on until all of a sudden he just kept saying that until the energy just sort of dissipated on its own.
Wow.
And it was weird. It was like all the time by that time I was in prison for about a year. I'm like suffering to try to toughen up and just be tough and suck it up and don't show these emotions and push these emotions away.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. And for
Yeah.
the first time, when he just had me cried and lean into it, like don't be afraid of it, just kind of lean into this is what it is. It's gonna hurt. It sucks, and it's gonna. I felt better. We went into this room. He said, "Hey, do you trust me?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Shave, iron your clothes as if you're going on a visitation." I said, "Okay, cool." So we did that. I was a sitting duck. I'll do whatever at this point, right?
Mhm.
Like I said, my whole ideas and what I know, what I should know, what should be done was totally out the window. I was clean slate. First time I'm 30 years old with like a childlike mind because I'm just open to whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that was crucial. And then we went in to this room. He had me go through this relaxation technique, like lay down and relax your head, your eyes, and it was like it was about 15, 20 minutes. I'm totally relaxed. And he said, "How you feel?" I said, "I'm feeling relaxed." Like first time, never felt this calm since I've been in prison. I said, "Okay, do you trust me?" I go, "Yeah." He said, "Stand up." So stand up. And he goes, "Stand up," and he put your hands on your knees. So him and I are standing up, the hands on our knees, and he goes, "On a count of three, we're facing each other." He says, "On a count of three, jump up 3 times and scream, 'I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited.'" And so I go, "All right, okay." So he go, "So 1, 2, 3, and we do this thing, right?" And I break out with the biggest smile I think I can ever remember. I've never laughed and smiled so hard. And this joy in me lasted for the whole day. I remember going to dinner that night, still feeling just joy and happiness, and walking up to him and said, "What the heck happened to me? Like, how is it that just this morning I was ready to end it all, and right now I'm feeling the most happiest I've ever felt in years. I'm still locked up, still, everything ripped away from me. Nothing has changed externally except what happened inside." And in that moment, I said, "Man, if I could figure this out, if I could figure out what this is, it'll be a game changer for my life. My life will completely transform." And so I just spent just figuring out what happened. How do you master this world inside? Because if I could get that figured out, I intuitively knew it was a game changer for me. And so I started reading books. I said I read the first book by Tony Robbins, and then at that point I was just devouring books. I probably was going through a book every 2, 3 days. I went from not reading a book at all to just reading tons of books. I mean, hundreds. I would say I probably read at least 600, 700 books while in prison.
Yeah.
And then I just had this thirst for learning. Somehow this thirst for learning kicked on. I went from not wanting to learn to just being wanting to just something happen. I just there's this idea that, and I think I read in the book, I can't remember what book it was that my life will be a reflection of who I am. And instead of trying to do things to change my life, or whether it's find the girl that I want, or do find the business that's going to make me money. This obsession with becoming that person that was going to be able to create that. Like, how do I become the person who becomes wealthy? How do I become the person that attracts the most amazing woman into my life, that I could, find the love of my life? How do I become the person who is this amazing father? Because I had children, and I knew that it was going to be a big problem when I get out of prison, having to reconnect with my children. So there's a lot of trauma that occurred with that. And so this whole quest just really started to change my life. And so when ended up doing about 6.5. I got out good time. And this energy I don't know, it just didn't stop. It just didn't stop. I just wanted it so bad. And so while I was in the halfway house, the first deal I did was in the halfway house. I got paid for there's no cell phone, and just through pay phone, and my mom brought me a bag of quarters. And I'm in Hawaii here because I did my time in the mainland. And then I came back here, and right from the halfway house, I knew, hey, I had to. I'm not employable. I'm a felon. I graduated from the worst school in Waianae. No job will really hire me and pay me good money. And I had to get a job because they don't, in federal prison, they don't let you start a business while you're on halfway house, which means halfway house means you're halfway home. It's like a prison, but it's in an apartment area. You're kind of locked in. You can't roam around outside of the apartment area. Um, but my mom gave me a bag of Ziploc bag of quarters. I started looking around and I found a restaurant for sale in Texas. And so I put an offer in on it and didn't have the money. I don't even know how to cook. Still don't even know how to cook. I can't travel. I can't travel because you're not allowed to travel. But I closed this deal in his pizza restaurant in Texas. Got it, raised the money for it, closed on it, and that was the first deal I did. Probably not even 6 months, not even 6 months out from prison.
That's okay. I'm gonna pause for a second. This is crazy. So, I mean, I want to go back real quick and talk about first off the mental mindset that you had in prison, that transformation where you cleansed your entire soul and went to bare bottom, clean slate. You came and revised. You refilled your mind and your soul with all this new knowledge of books, which was powerful because you drained to nothing. Rebuilt it with all this knowledge, which is amazing. Probably more knowledge you did your whole entire life up to that point. Then you get out and you realize like this is my reformed self. This is who I am, and you're on your way out. And in real estate is the thing that you jump into, and your first thing is buying a business that you had, like you said, no money, no credit, no job, no history of anything that's credible or like lendable, and that you could say like, hey, yeah, I'll loan you the money, Charles. Like you're
no tax returns.
Nothing. It didn't really exist. And you jumped on this phone that you didn't even have, again, the real tools to go do things. You had a pay phone with a bag of quarters, and you just started dialing. And how did you even find this business in Texas? Like, how did you dig that up?
I was just trying to put a lot of things out there, right? You talking and you reach out to people, and and I ended up having a conversation with one of my childhood best friends. And he lived in Texas at the time. And so I'm telling him, hey, I was in prison. I learned all these things, right? I'm like, I learned all this stuff. I want to apply it. And, and he go, all right, cool. And so he found the pizza restaurant for sale near him. The plan was I'm not out there. I can't be out there. I need somebody there, that can actually run the day-to-day operations. He was a chef, so he ended up finding the place. I ended up negotiating with the owner, doing the contracts and and then closed the deal. And we split it 50-50. So I think we both put in 50 grand each.
Yeah. Dang. So again, this is my point to those that are listening right now. If anybody that has excuses that they can't start something because they don't have the money, the will, the means, okay, that's all bullshit. Right now, what this man just said here, if you're listening closely, literally proved you wrong. Wrong. Everything that is against him was literally against him, including himself. And now he managed to get his first deal done. So that was the beginning of now what you moved into. Yeah. Now, how many has this moved as we move forward here? It was the pizza restaurant. Then boom, boom, boom. What would that next series go next 6 months or next year? What would that develop into?
The pizza restaurant, it was something that I knew that I didn't want to touch any of the money. So all the money all the profits that would come out of that, it was a struggling pizza restaurant. First off, it was an owner and one part-time employee running a whole pizza dine-in restaurant. So it was struggling. So I did see how we could turn it around. I saw the opportunity to turn it around. I knew the numbers we need to hit, in order to have it not only profitable, but ready for sale. My plan wasn't to be in it for a long time. Yeah. My plan was to buy it because it's a struggling business, get it to a point of, a good valuation, sell it and move on to the next thing. And so, but it required me not to draw any money from it. And so I was working minimum wage. So I worked minimum wage for this construction company at the time was $7.25 an hour. Yeah. And then I also did like whatever. Like I have a construction background, so I was more of a blue collar guy before I went to prison. And so I cut grass, I fixed toilets, like whatever, anything around the house. I did paint, whatever you wanted. I just did it, $100 here, $50 here. And so within my first year, I got out in prison. I got to the halfway house in January 2007. By December 2007, I'd saved 100,000. And so with that, with that 100, I bought my first property. Um, and then, so I think it took me about 8 months. 8 months, I bought my first property, and then I think another 3 or 4 months after that, I bought my second, and then the third. I think took me about a year, maybe year and a half, and I had like 14 houses.
Jeez. Wow.
And
Really impressive. This is crazy.
Yeah, still same thing, right? I figured, hey, look, I still got credit. I still ain't got the money. I still ain't got all the things that you think you would need
Yeah.
because I bought the restaurant. I'm like, I might as well just do it all, buying homes. And so I went from buying single family homes to buying multifamily and then to buying commercial buildings, um, and then to doing development. So I do land development. I buy the land. I get all the entitlements, CPR, road infrastructure for houses and things like that. Small though. I only do, I think the smallest I do is like 4 home to up to 25 homes. I'm not a really big developer.
Yeah, but we're considering that let's put this into perspective where you're at. We're in an island, a rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Mhm.
That is the farthest away from any landmass in the world, and yet it's thriving enough for you to build and develop this business. If you were on the mainland, obviously you have a lot of business partners and people and colleagues, which is actually how I really did get connected with you with our boy Kahea. Met Kahea and met you through Kahea, and it's funny how life works. Kahea is another good dude that just super mind entrepreneur, and you guys kind of rub the same shoulders. Obviously a different dynamic out here, him being out in California, out in LA, whole nother thing. So obviously again, here in Hawaii, so it doesn't matter where you're at geographically, you managed to create this massive success in real estate through developing and buying, flipping, holding, all of the above. With, again, to go back, you had zero experience, zero money, zero credit, zero resume that was even in a 1 ounce of you being successful and hitting this range, but you did it anyways through pure tenacity. And every time we hang out, by the way, I want to also say this: every time we hang out, I just love listening to Charles because Charles has the best freaking stories in the world. Because he always about something, bro. About you did this, it's like what the? I'm like, always fucking amazing me, man. Like, how the hell did you pull that one off? I just did it, bro. I just did it. And which again just proves that, dude, no excuses, zero excuses. Just stop with the bullshit of I can't, or this doesn't work, or that doesn't work, or how am I gonna do this? You just went after it. And so also you've plugged into your community. You're huge in your community now. You're giving back a whole lot.
Yeah.
You're part of a lot of nonprofits that you do. Why don't you talk a little about that? What you're doing and giving back just to redevelop, gentrify, like even Waianae.
Yeah, I do sit on the board of Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center. We're the largest employer on the Waianae Coast. And we actually Hawaii Business Magazine just voted us #1 nonprofit in Hawaii.
Wow.
So we have 700 employees. I also chair and the president of El Apio Social Services. So we are the largest providers of food. So I'm, like I said, I'm from very low income area, the lowest income area on Oahu. And it encompasses the coast, the Waianae coast. And so my nonprofit is in every school. The Department of Education, once you reach, I forget what the number is, 70% of free lunch, the school designates the whole school free lunch. And so Waianae is one of the schools along the Waianae coast. The children actually depend on the school food. If they don't have food at school, they don't eat. I remember growing up, and I was a kid, only a few people ate breakfast. A few of the kids, if you went early enough. And now, by the time the cafeteria opens in the morning, there's a long line of kids waiting to come and eat. And so during COVID, a lot of these kids weren't eating and didn't have a chance to eat, and that's sort of how this came about, having to feed kids. And and it's grown. And we just gave out our 10 millionth pound of food a few months ago, and we're in every single school along the Waianae, every school, every charter school along the Waianae coast. I have a food pantry there, helping kids. We distribute to elderly 5 days a week. So we have about 1,100 a week, and we distribute about 4,000 kids every single week, 5 days a week.
That's insane. And I love that though. And obviously, what do you want this to end up like developing into? Like just staying there on the Waianae coastline, or are you looking to like spill out into other parts of the island? And
I'm passionate about Waianae. Waianae is my thing. Waianae has kind of been seen as like the bastard child of Hawaii, right? When you say where you from, you say Waianae, and people kind of looked at you like the stigma, like, what? Waianae, right? And so my mission is just to change that. People have complained about how Waianae is viewed, and there's a lot of people who have their opinions about how people see us, the people from the community. And I felt like, man, if just few people just got together and said, you know what, we're gonna do something about it, and I just decided to do something about it, do something to make that change. And so for me, what I'm working on right now is we're building I got the land from DHHL, a land lease, and we're building a food warehouse. And the food warehouse will not only provide the food for our organization, but all about 50 something different churches. There's a bunch of different organizations throughout the Waianae Coast that really help to feed the community. And so this food warehouse that we're building will be able to support us and all of those nonprofits as well. So it'll be a food hub, basically a hub, emergency hub, resource center. So in case, not only we'll be able to provide food to the people who are needed the most, but in case of an emergency, we have the ability to not only provide a bunch of services, but food as well. So we have a container, a 40-foot container of food there, emergency. So in case, because we live along the coast, in case an emergency happens, and we've had this happen before where boulders end up being on the road and the road is shut down.
Yeah.
There's no access for food, right? We see what happened with Lahaina, and this has happened to the Waianae Coast before. And so my organization is really tackling that emergency preparedness as well from a food standpoint, because the government said, the state of Hawaii said, hey, make sure you have enough food for the last 14 days, because if something happens, it's going to take us a while to get to you. And how many people, in Hawaii, especially Waianae, they don't have the ability to save food for 14 days. And so we're working on providing that service and closing the gap.
That's crazy. Yeah. And to kind of let people know who's not been to Waianae, by the way, if you don't know Waianae, it literally is one way in, one way out kind of road access. So if a massive boulder did hit the freeway there, there would be no access in or out of that place. So you would be pretty much stuck to survive on your own. And another beautiful part about being in Hawaii. But yet I truly appreciate the fact, yes, I think Waianae's had a stigma forever from the very beginning. If you ever said you were from Waianae, they either feared you or scared of you, or they just said, oh, okay, yeah, rough neighborhood. You probably aren't of the highest elite of the elite people. But you're turning that around and you're creating a whole nother image, which is even amazing in itself. You're like becoming the Martin Luther King. Like, I have a dream. And, I love that because you're really giving back. Your story here, by the way, from the beginning is obviously it is what it was in the beginning. You did what you had to do to survive, but it's literally catapulted you, and it's been the catalyst of you becoming who you are today, Charles. And I would say at the end of the day, your two things you always said is who you are is your integrity. You got to be true to who you are. You've told me that every time, like, I got to be true to who I am. My value system is the most important thing in my life. And I think you've exemplified that in everything you're doing at this point in your life now, giving back and helping communities. Man, there's so many more other stories that we don't have time here, but this is just like a scratching the surface of hearing Charles' stories, because each and every one of them is unique. But as we leave this, I kind of want to maybe leave something for the audience, Charles. If there's one thing in this entire journey that you've done from start to finish, what is one thing that you can leave with someone that might be struggling right now, that might be thinking there's no hope, there's no light in the tunnel, there's nothing left, they've lost all disparity of life and the ability to think that there's something out there for them, or they've lost the dream of being whatever they want to be? What would be something you could say, like, to tell them, man, like, I mean, again, it's not like saying, "Hey, come on, suck it up, guy. Let's." I mean, you can't do this whole
Yeah,
like
yeah,
your boy in prison. Like, let's sit there and we'll jump up 3 times and say, I'm happy, right? I'm excited.
right.
I don't know what would you say to somebody, or any food for thought for them, or anything insightful that you could say, man, it's better. Like, there's life, there's hope. Like, I don't know, what would you say if you could leave one thing with people?
I would say, from doing this work and just being and still continue to working on myself,
Mm-hmm.
and being going through this journey and being able to not only better understand myself and other people and work with so many people. I've come to believe that at our core, there's always just two things that bring us down. There's really just two things that bring us down, and it's the belief that I'm not enough and the belief that I'm not loved. It's it. At some point, if you're stressing about something or maybe work or you got this deal you're trying to do and you're having a hard time, or person that you just can't get through to, or you're not being able to get maybe the attention or love or whatever it is from somebody, it really just boils down to this belief that I'm not loved, or I'm not enough, so I'm incapable of achieving or doing these things. And I would say, at first off, it's okay to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't feel wrong. I think the worst thing we can do is make as if something's wrong with us because we're feeling that. Something's wrong with me because I don't feel loved. Something's wrong with me. I'm broken, right? We hear these terms being thrown around, or trauma, or my trauma, or you have this trauma. It's like, man, everybody's got it. Everybody goes through that to some level, to some degree. And I would say it's important, at least the time that I take and to do it now, even now on a regular basis, is to not only reflect on the people that do love me regularly, like regularly reflect on the people that do love me, to look for evidence of love,
Mm-hmm.
right? I am loved, and seeing people and even in the past, and even if it's not somebody right now, but at moments in my past that I did feel love. And it's a good reminder for myself, and getting to the point where I can feel these emotions, not just, yeah, I'm loved, and it's like really feel these emotions of deep love, and looking back in moments where I did do good, right? Like something that made me feel like I was enough, like I did that. And I remember I was like, and I wasn't even that good, but I was the last at bat, and I hit the ball, and I only got into second base, but I brought the home winning run in, and everybody put me on their shoulders, right? And when I think about that, I get emotional, because these are the moments that make us feel alive. Like, these are the moments that we want, that we feel that's outside of our grasp, but it's already within us. And all we have to do is grab those emotions, grab those thoughts, and know and believe that we are capable, because there have been many moments in all of our lives that we've shown that we've risen up, that we are capable. And when I think you tap into that space, you really start to, and not only tap into that space, but find a way to be there on a regular basis. Not just once in a while, but every day. Every day. To this morning, I wake up every day thinking about the people that I'm loved, and how I'm loved, and feeling loved, and thinking of all the things that I've won, and how I kicked out the park, and amazing things that I've done, from the smallest things before, to, like I said, being baseball, to the things that I do now. Because if you're always thinking that your worth and your love is dependent on some other person, or some amount of money, or the next deal, you're just constantly chasing something that will just never be fulfilling. And you'll always feel this, you'll find yourself back in that same space again.
Yeah. God, it's amazing. I love that, because it's exactly what my entire series is about. It's you matter, and it's being seen, loved, and heard. And the truth is, if those are listening, you might think, oh, okay, that's a bit corny, Charles, because you got to be seen, loved. Yes, it's true. Understand that. For those that are really kind of like skeptical about it and thinking that's really like not worthy of talking about, many people do so many different things when they don't feel loved, seen, and heard. It goes on both ends. I
Oh,
mean, you either can thrive
I've been, I've,
climb mountains, or
I've
you
been
can.
in the game. Yeah, 100%. I've been in the game, and you find that a lot of guys that guys get involved in gangs, and a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of these guys don't make money. You're better. It's about equivalent to a minimum paying job, and you ask, well, why are you even in the game for? Why? Because they feel love. It's a camaraderie. It's a family. They say, so my gang is my family. They got my back, right? When people are so absent of feeling love or enough, people will do desperate things, right? We're born that way. Like if
Yeah.
we don't get love, they call it tactile stimulation. When you're born and you don't get love, a child would die. It's a proven fact. And so we spend our whole lives just willing to do whatever it takes just to be loved and enough. And so I think if we understand the thing that motivating force that drives all of us and learn how to, I wouldn't say deal with it, I was gonna say deal with it, but learn how to embrace that and how to work with that, how that's can work in our favor, I think that can really make a big impact.
I love it. This is why I love to connect with you and always hang out with you and both Kyle, because you're both huge advocates too of the PSI seminar, the PSI seminar, which is a huge landmark for you to transform yourself. And you've done the work and you continue to do the work. You said it's constantly long. You continue to do the work. It doesn't stop. This doesn't end.
Yeah.
This is something that goes on forever and ever and ever because you have to constantly keep doing things to elevate. But your life now is transform and change. And what most people could sit back and look at you and say, God, Charles is lucky. The people that knew you a decade ago or 2 decades ago be like, God, Charles sure is lucky. Look what all the stuff he has now. But that's not luck. I mean, the definition of luck is what preparation meets opportunity. But look at now, your life has evolved to what it is, and it continues to grow. You have an amazing family. You're an amazing father now. I mean, it is what it is now. You're back in this. You have an amazing wife. Brandy is amazing. I mean, you have everything you wanted in life that you've attracted back into your life, financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, everything. So
physically,
yes.
yeah, I got into shape. You know, I was all out of shape before going to prison, and I just now my health is very important to me, and my life is a dream. I really live the dream. I have the most amazing relationships, the most amazing wife, the most amazing job, the most amazing opportunity. I'm surrounded by amazing people, a community that loves and supports me, and I couldn't ever imagine. You said my life would be like this coming out of prison. It's like, nah, I would never imagine it'll be being like that. But in the end, I always want to say, as amazing it is, it's still the struggle to stay emotionally strong and healthy and at my best is no different from when I was in prison. It still feels the same. It's not like, it's like, oh, now it has so much things that makes it easier for me to feel excited and happy. It should just come automatic. No, it doesn't. I still wake up every day in the morning. I still do my morning meditation. I do still my priming emotionally, get myself ready for my day. It doesn't feel any different.
Yeah, you have to. It's a constant grind to keep yourself like. But it proves the fact again that money doesn't make you happy. Material things not make you happy. Because that's the case. You wake up every morning thinking life is great. So, dude, I appreciate you, man. I love you so much. I appreciate again. I'm so grateful for the ability to connect with you this year. You and Kyle both, my pickleball boys, by the way. You got to come out and some we're always hanging out, either we're doing the gym or playing pickleball or smoking cigars, hanging out fun. But just good people that I've elevated to. Charles, you're one of them. I appreciate that. I look forward to us still continuing this on into next, oncoming years. But as always, we're grateful for you. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. I had such an amazing time. I love being with you. Love your energy as well. Love the topics and conversation. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
I hope that someone out there is listening to this. If this affects one person, we're doing great. We're doing our job. If one person can resonate with some of this story, understand, see the value, and be enough to go down to this bare, let your ego go and be okay with going down and being very humble and start from scratch, and everything can be rebuilt and redesigned and reconfigured if you choose to allow it. This is a true testament. Charles right now just proved it to you guys that anything is possible. Nothing but excuses will hold you back. And honestly, the only thing that does hold you back is the person in the mirror, right? The one you're looking at in the mirror is the only one that's ever going to hold you back. So stop making excuses and blaming everybody and everything in life for why you're not where you're at. Because in the day, it's you. If we're being honest, it's fucking you. So get over it, drop the ego, get humble, and be willing to restart yourself and be okay with that. But that being said, I love you guys. Thank you all for listening to the show. As always, we'll see you again in episode 50, which would be kind of our big landmark for us. For 50 is it. But we're excited. Again, Merry Christmas. Have happy holidays. And see you all again next week. Thank you, Charles.
All right. Thank you.